right, so we are with Don Killian part two. My internet cut out, and so we ended that recording, and we're just going to wrap up. We Dawn was beginning to answer a question that I think is really important, and you were going to give some advice for women of color who are pursuing doctorates or pursuing dreams, and then you also wanted to share a little bit more about women facing obstacles in pursuing higher education and their doctorates. So Dawn, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and let's hope that the connection holds.
Yes. As it relates to minority leaders, I'll start with that question first. Just a little bit about my story. My dad, a lot of my life has been heavily influenced by the legacy of my father. He was born in the 30s, and he, as you would imagine, faced many obstacles throughout his life. And one of those obstacles is to education. And so born in the South, lived in the South all of his life, and it was not legalized for him to get a college education. So he moved to the North, received his bachelor's work, and then came back to the South, and he wanted to make a difference in our county. And so he became a civil rights leader in the 60s, and then became the first Black businessman in our county, and served as a director of community action was his title. And so he was very intentional about removing barriers in society, including inequality in educational system. And so he launched the first Head Start program in our county. And so that just really made a difference in my life. He died when my mother was pregnant with me. So I never met him, unfortunately, but when my mom was pregnant with me, she asked them for a name, and what would you like to name your child that I'm pregnant with? And he said, her name will be Dawn Denise. And then she said, okay, well, give me a boy's name as well. We don't know what the gender is going to be. He said, her name will be Dawn Denise. And so that's my fond memory of him in my spirit. But then in addition to that, I was always intrigued throughout my entire childhood by not only the difference that he made, but the remarkable courage that he had, his commitment and his passion for social justice, and his commitment to remove barriers as it relates to race, and education, and housing. He was just really intentional with those particular areas, and making certain that for all races. And so being a bridge builder was really important to him, and so it was a great influence in my life. And so the key to that for him, in addition to his faith, was education. And so he knew that would going to be a key component to his success as a leader. And for him, it was the integration of his faith and education, and academic pursuit. So that made a remarkable impression on me. And then my fifth grade teacher was the second influence in my life. And as an African American, one of the very few African American females, and African minority, first of all, the ethnic minority, but then in addition to that, she's female. So one of the very few in our school system. And so she mentored me. She just passed away 2 years ago, and she was my mentor ever since I was in fifth grade.
Mm.
And so she really was instrumental in encouraging me all throughout my education over the years.
Mm.
And as she was there for me every step of the way and encouraged me to continue towards my doctorate. So really a lot of it came through her prayers, came through her personal support and encouragement, and which made a difference in my life, being with her passion for as an educator.
Mm.
And so those were pillars in my life, and great influences for me.
Mm. Mm.
And so I think you asked the second question. The second question was about obstacles. So that's some of the obstacles are to educational system. But I would say if you are considering doing your doctorate, you have different obstacles that you're facing, or maybe you're currently are pursuing your doctorate and you're in the middle of it, or maybe you're in ABD status, and you're just like, wow, I've got this huge dissertation in front of me. And in the midst of all that you have going on, you have real life happening, right?
Mhm.
And you have maybe some family life crisis. My mom, at the time that I was doing my dissertation, my mom was suddenly diagnosed with 5 blood clots, and I suddenly became her POA, and so
Mhm.
I'm living out of state. She's lived in Maryland. I'm in Georgia. I had to make multiple trips to Maryland to care for her as her power of attorney, make executive decisions for her health care, um, medication management, making certain that she's getting the quality of care that she needs. And then shortly after that, she became diagnosed suddenly with dementia. And so then
Mm.
that took a whole nother level of care. So all of that was going on while I'm working on my dissertation, and or
Mm.
throughout that. So life happens, and there are all types of obstacles that when you start your dissertation or even your doctorate program in general, it life doesn't say, okay, we're just gonna everything's gonna go on pause, and life happens, the
We're
chaos.
gonna make this easy for you as you tackle this really hard life
No,
goal.
no.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is that doesn't mean to stop and to quit. Whatever you do, don't quit. That's all I'm going to say about that. Don't quit. Don't quit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they can go back to what is now going to be referred to as part 1 to listen to your primer on
Mhm.
how to set up a schedule and how
Yeah.
to, um, treat yourself well,
Mhm.
with your
Mhm.
soul
Mhm.
care and your life care and your
Mhm.
health. And
Mhm. Mhm.
because, yeah, I'm going to tell you, if you are only watching part 2, you need to go back and watch part 1, because Dawn gives a primer for anyone doing a doctoral thesis, how to get through it intact,
Mhm.
um, even when life goes sideways on you.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. The soul care, the self care is extremely important. And I would say, particularly in that season of my life with my caring for aging mother, and other, obstacles that happened during that particular season, I think it was just really important for me to be intentional with my self care and soul care practices. And so for me, in addition to the rhythms and that I mentioned earlier, I was very intentional with going to doing silent retreats multiple
Mhm.
times a year. And for me, that included going to a Benedictine center, and making certain that I was regularly receiving monthly spiritual direction, and when needed, especially with my mom's health and other things that were going on, need reaching out for pastoral support, pastoral counseling, and things of that name, making certain that I had a very, very, very strong support network so that I could care for others, and so that I was determined to be well on the other side of this dissertation. That was an important word that I spoke over my life before I even started the journey. So I want to come out on the other side of this well. So
Yeah.
I wish the same for you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So anything else that we didn't cover in part one or part two that you want that you want to talk about or share?
Wow, I can't think of anything. You can feel free to ask anything. I can't think of anything I didn't share.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up here. I am gonna do a teaser for Dawn, and so when Dawn and I were talking, well before we ever started recording, we were talking. Dawn said that one of her goals is to work on her legacy.
Mhm.
And I think we are going to do something in the spring
Mhm.
on legacy and what it means to leave a legacy, and how women share their wisdom and their gifts of time with the world. And
Mhm.
so I'm going to put down we're going to say we're going to wrap this up for this time, but there's going to be a next time,
Yeah.
because Dawn's tagline was "I'm not dead yet," and so we're gonna unpack that and what it means to start leaving a legacy, start building a legacy.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be something that's going to be really impactful for people.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your wisdom that you shared today with everyone. Um, just truly amazing. Your story
Mhm.
is a powerful story, and I'm so glad we're able to share at least a part of it with the Diakonos Solutions audience.
Mhm.
So, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having me.
All right. We will, Diakonos Solutions folks, I will let you know when Dawn is back on. And we look forward to the next conversation.
Mhm.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.